breaking. This is WNBF News Today at 5.
Almost half of the people living with HIV and AIDS are here in the South. I'm live with why we're seeing more people infected.
Plus, water can rise quickly in our area due to heavy downpours and hurricanes. The plan to keep it from hitting dangerous levels.
And tracking your next overseas flight, we're going to tell you how eyes in the sky and on the ground can prevent another airliner from disappearing without a trace.
Then what you're eating could give a false positive on a breathalyzer test. The food's causing people to blow over the legal limit.
But first, we want to help you get out the door on this Monday morning.
Here's First Alert meteorologist Marla Branson with more on a dense fog advisory in the area right now.
For everybody. If you can see us, you're under a dense fog advisory, so you might want to get out the door a little early this morning. It has visibility restricted to 1/4 mile from Marion up through Lumberton. A 1/2 mile visibility is max at the beach. A little bit better for Florence, but not much. Then a 1/2 mile visibility once you get west of I-95. This is what Florence looks like at the moment. About 30 minutes ago, downtown Florence was socked in with fog. So this is going to be a fluid situation where it's changing throughout the morning. So stay tuned. I'll keep an eye on this fog for you. Now, as far as temperatures go, it's chilly, but it's not cold. Everybody pretty much in the mid to low 40s, 45 at Myrtle Beach, 43 for Florence. And then as we head throughout the morning, once this fog clears, it stays cloudy. Also have the details on some unsettled weather and rain coming up at 5:15.
Thank you, Marla. Almost 5:02 on this Monday, a subject that still tends to make a lot of us uncomfortable, HIV/AIDS. And right now, the highest HIV death rate in the country is coming from us here in the Deep South.
Katrina Helmer is live in the studio to analyze the latest research. Good morning, Katrina.
Good morning. Well, we typically think of HIV spreading quickly in bigger inner cities, but as medical treatment is becoming more attainable in those large cities, that's no longer the case. Instead, it's becoming more of a problem in rural areas, meaning the battle against HIV and the AIDS epidemic is barely making any ground in the South, especially in South Carolina.
The rate in South Carolina in our area really has not changed a whole lot since the beginning of the epidemic.
According to the most recent data from the Centers for Disease Control in 2011, 1.2 million people are living in the U.S. with HIV. Compare that to here in South Carolina, more than 15,000 people are currently living with the disease. Researchers at the University of North Carolina, Duke University, and the CDC analyzed the diagnosis and death rates of HIV and AIDS patients in 9 target states in the Deep South, including South Carolina. Those states now account for 49% of people living with HIV/AIDS, despite making up just 37% of the national population. Researchers wanted to look specifically at the states hit the hardest by HIV infection rates to determine characteristics, causes, and outcomes. Compared to national averages, patients in the target states tended to be younger and more often African American, while many also attributed their infection to heterosexual transmission and had worse outcomes.
Who's being infected has changed some. Still, the majority of people infected with HIV are men who have sex with other men, but African Americans and African American women are disproportionately affected. They're accounting for over 70% of new infections.
When you have higher levels of poverty, you have lower levels of education and less access to care and prevention. There are some other key factors that could impact the risk factors of HIV. In our second half hour, I'm taking a closer look at the groups most affected in our area. Live in the studio, Katrina Helmer, WNBF News.
A traffic alert for you right now about 2 construction projects that can slow down your commute. There will be a shoulder closure for utility work on US 17 bypass. That's happening at Church of the Resurrection north up to Glens Bay Road. A closure will also be happening on Glens Bay Road from US 17 Business to Evergreen Circle in the westbound lanes. These closures are expected all week long. Remember to slow down for workers if you have to travel through those areas. Also this week, the SC31 extension project will cause a lane closure. This is happening on Peachtree Road. Flaggers will be in the area directing traffic, but if you want to avoid any delays, you're being asked to find another route.
Happening today, the city of Myrtle Beach releasing its updated floodplain management hazard mitigation plan. That plan, of course, will be used as a guide for reconstruction and development and redevelopment in flood-prone areas to reduce or even eliminate future flood damage. You can learn more by going to a public hearing this afternoon at 2 o'clock. It's in the conference room at the City Services Building. You can also participate in a survey about hazards and disasters in our area. We have a link posted under this story on the WMBFnews.com page. It's under the local tab. A heads up for those of you in Pawleys Island. You might see smoke near your homes this week. Officials say it's nothing to worry about. Georgetown County will be using smoke to test its sanitary sewer system. This according to a tweet from the Pawleys Island Police Department. And starting today, schools in in Florence District 1 will celebrate Reading Across America. There are several events going on all week long. It kicks off today with a celebration of Dr. Seuss's birthday. At Carver's Elementary School, some events include wearing stripes today in honor of Dr. Seuss. Wednesday is Dress Up as your favorite book character day. It ends on Friday when students get to wear their pajamas to school.
The president of Francis Marion University has been given a 3-year contract extension. The Board of Trustees at the Florence University voted to extend the existing contract of Fred Carter through 2020. The chairman of the board says Carter has made significant contributions to the university and is the best college president in South Carolina. The university has an enrollment of about 4,000 students. Carter makes close to $180,000 a year. An update for you right now. The Carolina Forest High School robotics team is now on its way to the national tournament next month in St. Louis. More than 60 high school teams competed in the Palmetto Regional First Robotics Competition at the Convention Center this past weekend. The RoboCats team received a computer and a kit of parts in early January. They had just 6 weeks to build a working robot from scratch. And the theme this year had students building robots to help with recycling.
New this morning, Australia has announced a plan to work with Indonesia and Malaysia to enhance the tracking of aircraft over remote oceans. This will allow aircraft to be more easily found if they disappear, just like Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The new method would track planes every 15 minutes rather than the previous rate of 30 to 40 minutes. Tracking would increase to 5 minutes or less if there's ever a change in a flight plan. The trial is expected to use satellite-based positioning technology already on board 90% of long-haul airliners.
Hopefully our trial will help to lead to a global adoption of these more regular reporting arrangements.
The new system would boost the frequency coming from the airplane, allowing air traffic controllers to better track them as well. The announcement comes near the first-year anniversary of the disappearance of Flight 370. That flight went missing March 8th, believe it or not, last year with 239 people on board. Secretary of State John Kerry in Geneva, Switzerland. Today, Mr. Kerry will meet with Russian Foreign Minister to discuss Iran, Syria, and Ukraine. The Secretary will also make an appearance before a UN human rights body. He's planning for up to 3 days of talks with Iran's foreign minister on a deal to restrain the Iranian nuclear program in exchange for easing sanctions. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu preparing for his controversial speech in the House chambers on Tuesday. Mr. Netanyahu will argue against a possible agreement between the U.S. and Iran that Mr. Kerry is now fighting for. The visit, an invitation by House Speaker John Boehner without consulting the president. The president, Mr. Obama, will not be meeting with the prime minister this time. Netanyahu is in a tight election race at home, and the president doesn't want to appear as if he's endorsing any candidate.
Well, it's a scary thought. Not alcohol we're talking about, but foods that could actually be on your plate right now that could trigger a false positive on a breathalyzer test.
It sounds strange, doesn't it? But that's the claim of a lawyer in the Carolinas. Raycom News Network reporter Emily DeVoe has more new at 5.
There's a myth about myths. You can't believe them until you see it with your own eyes. And attorney James McGee has a Paul Bunyan-sized claim to prove.
What we're hearing is different things can mimic alcohol, and they can be secondary sources for alcohol, and you not even know it.
McGee says if you're pulled over and asked to take a breathalyzer test, beer isn't the only thing that could cause you to blow a positive number.
White bread has actually affected the handheld device, the FST device that we use here in North Carolina.
So naturally, we had to try it for ourselves.
0.018. and I have not had anything to drink.
When I ate a honey bun, similar result.
Wow. 0.015.
Lucky for me, that's below the .08 legal driving limit. But if you drink less than a beer moments before getting in your car to see blue lights flashing behind you,
0.167. I'm toast. I'm double the limit.
the breathalyzer picks up on the high concentration of alcohol still in your mouth. McGee says the numerical results from the test in the field can't be used in federal court. His advice? Even if you've only had one drink, the best thing to do is wait at least 15 minutes before driving home.
A new video this morning shows a train derailment police say a drunk driver caused. The man tried to beat the train. We all know that's never a good idea. He drove around down crossing arms and the train hit his car. 2 people went to the hospital with minor injuries. The driver, who police say caused it all, now facing DUI charges. The murder trial of former New England Patriots player Aaron Hernandez has been delayed again due to snow. Another snowstorm hitting New England is expected to leave behind several inches in the area. Court will not start until 10:15 this morning. Hernandez is charged with the 2013 killing of semi-professional football player Odin Lloyd, who was dating his fiance's sister. Expected back on the stand today is a Sprint employee who testified about several text messages and phone calls exchanged between Hernandez and one of his co-defendants.
No matter how much the family doctor drills home the message about getting tested, it could be your dentist who fills a huge gap in diagnosing diabetes. The story coming up.
And your work week begins with a cloudy day ahead. The mild temperatures expected in your First Alert forecast.